Everybody, my name is Folusha Oladipo, and today I'm going to be giving a tutorial about how to write end-to-end tests for any web application using Nightwatch, Selenium, and the Chrome web browser. This tutorial is going to have a couple of videos, and in this first video, I'm going to show you how to set up your testing environment so that you can write your very first test, your very first end-to-end test. So let's get to it. Um, Before I go into some of the steps required to set up your environment, I just want to explain some of the technologies we are going to use. Nightwatch is a testing framework that's used to write end-to-end tests for web applications. Now, Selenium is a technology used to automate interactions with web browsers. So as opposed to having somebody actually fill forms, click buttons, check the text of web browsers, you can use Selenium to automate all these tasks and chores such that it actually doesn't need so much manpower to carry out all these tasks. Now, Chrome obviously doesn't need an introduction. It's one of the many web browsers out there, but it's not just one of them, it's also one of the best. So, in order to write end-to-end tests for your web application, um, there are some requirements, and the first requirement I'm going to be talking about is that you have to have Java installed. And it's not just Java, Java version 7 or later. Now, I've included a URL here, and I'm going to also add all these URLs to the description of this video so you can go check them out. But I've included a URL here, which when I click it, is going to take me to the Oracle page where I can download and install Java. Before going ahead to install Java, you need to accept their license and then download the version for Mac. So you go here and you download the binaries for your system, whether it's a Linux system or a Windows system or a Spark system. Now, I already have Java installed, and if you think you also already have Java installed, just go to your terminal. I'm going to open, by the way, this is Visual Studio Code, by the way, and has an inbuilt terminal. I usually don't use this when developing, but in order to make this video clearer, I'm going to open the terminal for Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to open it using a control backtick. Um, okay, so in order to ensure, in order to check if I have Java installed, I can enter the command java-version. So after entering this command, I can see that I have Java version 8 installed and some other details. So if you enter this on your own computer and you get something that looks like this, or where the version is at least version 7 and up, then it means you are good to go. You also need to install the Chrome web browser. This is a link to the download page. You need to install Node. Node is a JavaScript runtime engine initially built by Google, and when you install Node, it comes along with npm, which stands for Node Package Manager. npm is used to manage Node packages so that you can use other people's code and not build everything from scratch all the time. This is the web page. I'm going to click it quickly, and you can see all the binaries. And since Node is also open source, you can download the source code and compile it from source by yourself. I would like to mention as an aside that I advise you to download the LTS version. The LTS version means long-term support. So I don't really advise you to go to the current releases, which are kind of like releases that have the bleeding edge and latest capabilities. It's good, but it's not always stable. But if you really know what you're doing, sure, go ahead, download the latest releases. But to be on the safe side and just use things that are stable and well tested, you can use the LTS versions listed here. Now, back to my list, you need to install Nightwatch, and Nightwatch is an npm package, and you use this command to install it. So I'm just quickly going to copy this and install Nightwatch. Now, it's up to you how you what version of this command you use. I prefer to use npm install save, so that or in this case it should actually be save dev, because um, Nightwatch is an npm package used in development and not in production. So I'm going to save this as one of the dependencies for my project, and by so doing, it means that my users, whenever they clone um, my project from GitHub or something like that, they just need to do npm install and to fetch all the dependencies. But if you want to, you can do something like npm install global, and this means that or every packaging on your computer will have access to this. Although users that clone your project in at later times will have to figure out how to set Nightwatch up themselves, but it's up to you. Anyway, I prefer to use save dev, and I'm going to click this, enter that, and wait for a couple of seconds for it to fetch the Nightwatch package and install it. Now, while it's doing that, you also need to download the Selenium package. I'm going to click this link, and you see a list of releases, compiled Java bytecode actually, and it might seem a little bit confusing, but these are releases and their version numbers. So I advise you to go to version 3.8 and download it. But a thing of note is that you shouldn't be downloading any of these other guys. You should be downloading something that has server standalone in its name. So Selenium server standalone. The version doesn't matter. Just make sure you get a version that is fairly recent or the most recent, and that the file is called server standalone. Now, I'm not going to download this because I've already downloaded it, as you can see here, and which is already in this folder. Yeah, and as you can see, I've also downloaded the Chrome driver, and I just extracted it because it was in a zip file. But if you want to download the Chrome WebDriver, here is the link, and you can just click that, and you see the the releases of the Chrome driver. I would advise you to go for this latest release, and immediately you click that, it will take you to something like the Selenium page, where you can choose whether it's a is a Chrome driver for Linux, Mac, or Windows 32. I chose Linux. I chose Mac, so that is why on my computer I have the Mac 64 version now. That's about all you need to download. Last thing is that the demo project I'm going to be, by the way, npm has finished installing Nightwatch here. So, by the way, the project we are going to be using to demonstrate end-to-end tests is this project here. I created it myself, and it's already in production. It's already a live website. You can find the link on the GitHub page at the top of the description here. But I just decided to use it to demonstrate how to write end-to-end tests. Now, having downloaded and installed all of that, the next couple of steps we need is to create a nightwatch.json file. Now, this is a config file for Nightwatch, and Nightwatch will read all the info here when you run it. So I have to say that I created this file before the start of the video so as to make things faster, and I'm going to explain some parts, and The first part is this, the source folders. Where are your end-to-end tests located? And I have stipulated that my end-to-end tests will be in a folder called E2E test. So I'm going to copy this. Sorry. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to create a new folder and call it E2E tests. Cool. Now, output folder here is asking for where it's supposed to write the report. So after Nightwatch finishes running its tests, it writes the reports to a folder so that you can go and view it sometime in the future. So I'm also going to create that folder and paste this name there. Now, the other thing I need to stipulate is that my Selenium server is going to be in a particular path. So by default, by convention, people put their Selenium executable in a folder called bin. So I'm going to create that folder, and then I'm going to pick my Selenium executable from here, Selenium server standalone. I'm going to pick it from here. Excuse me. So I'm going to pick it from here and move it into the bin folder. So it's now in bin and then Selenium server. And likewise, I've also stipulated that the Chrome driver will be in the bin folder. So I'm going to take this. Now remember what you will download from the Chrome driver website is a zip file. Remember to extract it, and then after extracting it, move what you extracted into the bin folder here. Now you can decide to put your own executables, say at the root of the project or in a folder that is named something other than bin. Fine, just make sure you change these names as appropriate. Now all these other details don't change. You can just leave them as is. So now we're going to go to the final part, the fun part, which is to make sure that all these things we've done actually work, that we've actually succeeded in setting up a Nightwatch test environment. So in order to do so, remember that I said in this config file that my end-to-end test will be in a folder called E2E test. So I'm going to go into E2E test, and I'm going to create a new file and call it sample test.ts. Now, in order to get details about how to use the Nightwatch API to write tests, I advise you to go to nightwatch.org. Yeah, go to nightwatch.org and then go to their API reference and then see how you can use the Nightwatch API to write various browsers. You can use expects, asserts, and all that. But to keep things simple, you can start from the example given here, which I'm not exactly going to use, but I'm going to write my own version for my project. So before I write the test, I'm going to run my project with npm start. And the project is going to run on port 7000, and so I'm going to open that in my browser. Port 7000, and this is what the login page of the app looks like. Now I'm going to test for two simple things. Number one, I'm going to test that there is an element like this guy, which if I inspect it, it's an H1 with a class of text center, and I'm going to use my end-to-end test to ensure that yes, this element exists and that and that it contains the text "Welcome to Newsflash." Apart from that, I'm also going to inspect and use my test to verify that the page title is Newsflash. So let's go back to this, and I'm just going to run through this real quick. Module not export. So if you see some red underlinings and stuff, it's because of ESLints, busy links in my code. So you might want to not exactly pay attention to that. So next I'm going to give module.exports an object that contains functions. The first one is going to be sample e2 e test, which is going to take a function that takes an argument of client. Now, client dot URL. So this command is used to navigate to URL, and I'm going to say navigate to http/localhost and port 7000, and then wait for element visible. I'm going to wait for the body element to be visible, and I'm going to only wait for 2 seconds or 2000 milliseconds, which equals 2 seconds. And then I'm going to start my assertions. I'm going to assert that the page title is Newsflash. And then I'm going to assert that there is an element that is visible that matches this CSS selector of, remember this guy is an H1 element and he has a class of text center. So I'm going to say H1 element with a class of text center. And then I'm going to assert that this, if a certain element contains text, so contains, I want to assert that my element here, let's copy this. This element contains the text. Oh, my battery is low. Contains the text, welcome to news flash. And then I'm going to end my tests. Yeah, I'm going to end my tests, and fixing some of this stuff. Okay, so I'm good to go. So I'm going to create another terminal window, and I'm going to run the tests with this, the end-to-end test with this command, /node modules, then .bin, then Nightwatch. Now, how many percent? Okay, and Nightwatch. So it's busy running test now, and let's wait for it. Okay, so the tests worked, but you might be saying to yourself, yeah, I'm seeing some green ticks, but I actually didn't see any tests being run. So the reason is because when I ran the test, it opened a window of Chrome on my desktop and ran the test. So I'm going to run the tests again and then go to my desktop, and soon you'll see a window of Chrome pop up and Selenium would do its thing and automate, yeah, There you go. And automate the testing of my app. So you see it's loaded the page, waited, and checked that everything I expect to be there was did show up on the page. So yeah, if you've got into this space, then it means that you successfully set up Nightwatch and the test environment. So in the next video, I'm going to go into more details about using Nightwatch to write assertions and tests to make sure your web page behaves in a certain way and looks a certain way and all the good stuff. So see you in the next video.